Hi, Leah Brick here for Conversations from the Couch with Sari Cooper. Sari, thanks so much for joining us today. We're excited you're going to be presenting at our virtual conference very soon.
Yeah, I'm really
You're
excited.
you're presenting Healing from Infidelity with Sex Workers, Peeling Back Men's Sexual Narrative. That's on Saturday, October 17th at 1:45 Central. Can you tell us more about your presentation and what the inspiration was behind it?
Right. Well, I was sort of thinking about the cases of clients, male clients, who have dealt with a lot of compulsive or out of control, I would say, sexual behavior. And then I sort of realized that they all sort of represent, or not represent, but they all sort of have done behaviors with paid sex workers. And although I've done a lot of work with infidelity, with people who have lovers, or even, sort of compulsive cheating or infidelity or extradiatic behavior with, just people they meet in bars, on business trips and things like that. I thought there was something very specific about paid sex work. And the different types, because as I sort of thought about my caseload, I realized there were all different types of paid sex work that these men were going and purchasing.
Mhm. Why do you think that your topic is important to sexual health?
Well, certainly, I think when men go outside of, committed, sexually monogamous, supposedly relationship, um, there is a whole different sort of ball of wax to unravel when it's discovered, and that they're doing something that's both taboo in society, but also illegal in most states.
Mhm. And so really helping people to understand what happens for the coupleship, whether that is a same-sex couple or a opposite-sex couple, just what that does for that relationship and how that impacts the relationship in general. Because obviously it's going to affect that coupleship's sexual health. So I can really
Right.
see.
Right. I mean, there's the concern that people have, obviously, with, have I been exposed to STIs? Did you use a condom? There's some research that shows that men won't use condoms with people they don't necessarily feel attached to or invested in, and certainly paid sex workers are people. It's much, it can be more of a transaction. Not always, but it can be. So, although some places have more rules around that. And also, I think it has to do with the sexual identity and, a term I've coined is sex esteem of the man who's doing the behavior, because sometimes they've made that choice for very specific reasons in terms of how they feel about certain behaviors that they don't feel are allowed in to their primary monogamous,
Mhm.
supposedly monogamous relationship.
Sure. Well, I can see why that would be really important for them to explore as a couple, because if that's a block in the sexual health of their relationship,
Mhm.
then they're really going to have to work through what those issues are and see how they can bridge that gap for those behaviors that maybe the partner isn't interested in engaging in, and how do they contract to navigate that area.
Right. And it's sort of, a body, mind, spirit kind of health, right? Sexual health. We're talking about it on all these sort of different levels. And for many people, doing, certain behaviors, sexual behaviors, is tantamount to their being authentic to their true self.
Mm.
And if they have to compartmentalize or split off that side of themselves, um, they're either replaying something that happened to them when they were children where they weren't allowed to be authentic, or they also feel like, rightly so, their partner will leave them or abandon them. but they've never had those kinds of very deep, thoughtful kinds of conversations in the relationship.
What do you hope that the participants will take out of out of their attendance in your session? What do you want? What's the nugget that you want them to get?
You know, I'm a family systems trained as well as a mindfulness trained sex therapist. And so I'm always looking at the relationship between the primary partners. I also take into account sometimes the person outside the room who I'll never meet, right? And so I guess the thing I want people to consider is, even if an individual man, and sometimes men come to me individually, comes into your office, I want people to consider the whole sort of system that his behavior has impacted, because that, you know, and how to have those kinds of authentic conversations with the people that they want to remain with, so that they don't keep splitting off this side of themselves. So I guess, and also the implications for the couple and the family that aren't always talked about, you know, so in terms of the taboo, right? And also the fact that this is a secret that now the partner may have to keep.
So it sounds like you really are hoping that people will walk out of there understanding the fracturing that happens. And when I say fracturing, I mean fracturing of the system, fracturing of the individuals, and how that can be resolved. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and how people can learn how to become more authentic and attached in their primary relationship, so that they feel like they can develop a voice, and that their partner can learn how to listen without reacting.
Yes.
But it's a lot of work, right? It's a long process of healing.
Yeah, it really is. So this is your first year at the SASH conference. Thank you for coming and joining us and presenting. So grateful to have you this year, and what a great topic to be presenting on. What excites you about the SASH conference this year?
Well, you know, I've worked with or collaborated or discussed with, you know, people who come out of the SASH world, if you will, as an ASECT certified sex therapist. I thought it was a really nice cross-pollination opportunity. And, you know, I think that's kind of what I'm most excited about, to hear back from others and their perspectives. You know, people have a wide, you know, array of calling a behavior or naming a behavior. And so I think it's important for all of us to listen to one another and to learn from one another. And so I guess that's kind of why I'm so excited.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's a really great cross-pollination this year. And we're so happy to have ASECT and ATSA joining us, and many of their professionals that follow them. But I think what I'm most thrilled about is that by you coming to us and sharing some of your experience and your world, your profession from the sex therapy world, it really gives us more tools in our tool belt, more language to speak, so that we all have the same goal, right? We all have the same goal of helping people heal. And so having more tools in our tool belt only allows us to do that at a greater level.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So here we are virtually, which we've been now since, at least here in Georgia, since March. And, you know, there are definitely some downsides to being on so many Zoom calls and in virtual sessions, and that there definitely is fatigue. But what are some benefits that you've found in your work that have come out of being in a virtual setting?
Well, a couple of things. One is that I can sometimes meet people in a client's family that I wouldn't normally meet because they happen to be on the bed with them, like pets or babies or children who kind of come in to a session because they need their parent for any which reason. So I see, verbally and non-verbally, the kind of attachment my client has to their pet, their child, and so that's kind of more information. And I think that, I had written about this early in my Psych Today blog, my sex esteem blog, that, it's not since 9/11 that in some ways we've all been impacted by this terrible thing that's going on, at the same time as our clients. And having that kind of affinity to your client of like, I know what that's like, or I feel for your anxiety and not knowingness of what's going to come, and learning how to manage our own anxiety or concerns at the same time as creating a space for our clients. That's what it really reminded me of, actually.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about that, but it really is true, that coming together really of the entire world, if you will, because so many of us are all in this virtual world together and in quarantine in one form or another. And so the opportunity to be in space together, if you will, it really can be quite rewarding to know that someone else is feeling the same way I am.
And also actually having some humor sometimes about it.
Oh, absolutely.
You got to have some humor.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're sitting in front of a computer for any number of hours in a day, you've got to be able to laugh about it. So,
right.
Which brings me to my last question, which is about balance and peace. So as you're in this virtual world and having to work in a different setting and just navigate all of that, what are you finding for yourself, and what are you recommending for your clients to bring balance and peace?
So certainly having time that's non-screen time. Being able to take walks and doing some sort of exercise that, really holds your attention so that you're really engaged. I mean, I'm a big yogi. I like to bicycle. I like to walk. And so, I just tell people you need to get around and start moving and see that there's a world out there, outside. Yes. So you don't feel so, huddled into your one, little space.
Right.
And also, I'm a big foodie and I love to cook. And so, everyone's talking about the COVID-15 or 20, however many pounds it may be that people have put on. I talk to people about creating really nutritious and, good tasting food and sharing it and without screens, with friends, if you live alone, even doing picnics outside, or, with your family or whoever you happen to live with. So I think that there's more importance than even before of breaking bread, that kind of very primitive, basic thing of being together. It's an antidote to all that sort of screen time.
Yes. It's really learning that there is more of a world outside of this little computer box, right?
Yeah.
And taking advantage of that and getting back to basics, and which is breaking bread with people, cooking, fellowship.
Yeah. And for people who live alone, I think it's really important to do those kind of meals with, I tend to like FaceTime my family while I'm cooking, as if they're sitting there in my kitchen with me. So it's like I'm in the room with them. Because I think for the people who are on their own, who might not want to go outside, because of their own frailty or sense of predisposing factors, they're at most risk, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, once again, I just want to thank you for being with us today and joining us for Conversations from the Couch. And want to thank you for presenting at our conference. Again, your presentation is Healing from Infidelity with Sex Workers, Peeling Back Men's Sexual Narrative. That's going to be on Saturday, 10/17 at 1:45 p.m. Central Time. Sari, thank you so much for being with us today. We really look forward to seeing you online in our virtual conference and
Can't wait.
learning more.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much, Leah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.